Yo, I think I need to get me one of these tiny cars, yo. Like, I need to get me one of these tiny cars. Now, you're asking our show, what is this about? Why are we talking about tiny cars? Do we even really want this? And all the rest of it. And I get some of the sentiment, you guys. I really do. Like, are tiny cars just, as disrespectful as the tiny house? So that's what we're going to talk about today, you guys. Welcome back to an episode of Archie's Briefings. I'm your host, Arshel Branch, and welcome to the channel of Pocket Politics, you guys. This has been a conversation that has been taking place over the last couple of days now, and I do want to have this conversation simply because I do think that affordability is not a hoax, according to the president. It is a hoax, and it needed to be talked about. So, of course, before we go ahead and do that, take the time to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Hit the notification bell so that way you guys never miss an episode. Now, let's just talk about it. I want you guys definitely get in the comment sections and let me know what do you think about tiny cars, because I don't necessarily have a dilemma about this. I actually really do think that this is a good idea. Now, before I get into whether or not I think Trump is going to do this, I want to talk to you guys about the idea of compact cars, which is the actual term, not tiny car, but compact cars. This is something that used to be a thing back in the 1970s. President Trump himself even said when he saw them when he went overseas to Japan that they kind of remind him of the Beetle. You guys know the Volkswagen Beetle, a bunch of Herbies, right? Just a bunch of compact cars used to ride around. And the reason for that was obviously because the cost of gas had increased. What was 35 cents became the dollar. Blame whoever you want, of course, but ultimately a lot of Americans were demanding compact cars because the smaller the car, the smaller the tank, therefore the less they spend on the gas. Now, and that's true. So there is seeming to be this kind of a demand. It's not like massive according to the data that I've seen so far, but there are enough people where it is a question. And then President Trump makes his statements via his Truth post, as well as this conversation he had with automaker executives December 3rd. And to be quite frank with you guys, I kind of love the idea of having the compact car, because if you think about it, the average car cost, the average new car cost is anywhere between 48 to possibly a little over $50,000. The numbers that I've seen was about $48,000. And young Americans are going into debt tremendously over these things. It's something that, is a travesty. Young people, when you're talking about millennials and Gen Zers, which, millennial, I mean, I hate calling young millennials young people. I feel like we're not spring chickens anymore. We're not the elderly, but we're not spring chickens either. Like, I'm no spring chicken. I'm 30 years old. Like, at this point, I'm an adult is what I used to call 30-year-olds when I was a kid. I'm grown. You're grown. You've got responsibilities. You're not a young person anymore, but that's a whole other conversation for another day. I'll save that for the manosphere. But ultimately, that for 30-year-olds, this is seeming like it's going to be a good idea, because it means you'll be able to buy something that you can afford. Imagine being able to buy a brand new car that was anywhere, but that was, $10,000 to $15,000. It's brand new. That's the idea. Now, personally, I want to buy American, right? Let me find Jeep decides they are going to come out with a compact Renegade. I'm buying it. Let me find out that Jeep is going to come out with a compact, Mojave or Rubicon Wrangler, okay, for $15,000. I'm going to get it. I would save my money for that. Now, it doesn't mean that you don't keep building the bigger cars, right? What it means is that Americans would have the affordable option. We all know the bigger the stake, the more you're going to spend for it. The smaller the stake, the less you spend for it. So if you made the smaller option available, well, then I'd have something more affordable, something in more of my price range that I could actually afford. And the momentum of ownership is going to be started up again. We ask ourselves, why can't we have the life that our parents and grandparents had? And this is becoming a part of the question. Okay. Every single time someone asks about affordability or talks about the issue of affordability, the first thing that comes out of their mouth is, why can't I, or if you're a parent to grown children, why can't my kids afford to buy a house? Okay. And right, we can't afford to buy these things. Cars are unbelievably expensive. And the idea that I would be able to go out there and buy a brand new car for $15,000 because it's a compact car, because it's smaller, the gas tank is smaller, even with the gas reductions, my goodness, because gas has gone down, my goodness, I'm saving more money. I'm spending less money on a necessity, which I think is fantastic. I do not believe that the necessities that we need to survive, okay, to get around, to maintain our livelihoods should be astronomically high, okay? I find that to be part of the problem. I do think that it is highly suspicious that everything all of a sudden have been unaffordable for quite some time now. And I do believe that's part of the plan to make everybody own nothing and be happy. Okay. The car note became the flex. I see people all over TikTok. Oh, my car note is 500. My car note is over $1,000. That the higher your car payment, the better you are at life. Like, what? That sounds ass backwards to me. People who've got $500 car notes to over $1,000 cars, people are going to be paying car notes for the next 40 years. Like, that was your house. But imagine being able to buy a car that was $15,000. And like I said earlier, it doesn't mean that you don't go and buy the bigger and better version of the car that you have. What it means is until you can afford to buy that thing, you can start with the smaller option. Okay. The starter car, if you would, like the starter home, right? Like, this is something that I think is actually going to address real affordability and solve a major problem for young Americans. That if you have the ability to get the thing you need for a more affordable rate, you are going to feel even more galvanized to be smart about your money, to go for the things that you actually want. The American dream seems more attainable simply because the options are available. Okay. Now, I'm not saying that people haven't been stupid with their money, because obviously, when I look at this debt among young Americans, my goodness, $1.7 trillion is what's across millennials and Gen Zers as it relates to the student loans. When it comes to auto loans, I'm like, oh my goodness. Okay. We've been irresponsible. Like, okay, we've been taking out debt like it's nothing. And I'm not saying that we don't need to see legislation on this, but as far as what the individual could be doing, you could not be adding to your problem by exacerbating the debt you already have by taking out more debt. You could not take out the debt at all to get the thing that you want. But even when it comes to things that you need, you shouldn't have to take out all that debt either. So, of course, you guys know me, right? I speak majority of the time, I'm speaking to what the individual can do when it comes to their finances. But as it relates to this idea that the president has put forward among the executives of automakers, say, yeah, no, you're going to build these things. We need to build them. I saw them overseas. I thought this was a great idea. Okay. It kind of reminds me of the Volkswagen Beetle. And if you build American, the American citizen gets a tax credit because they bought American. My goodness, the day, like I said, the day Jeep comes out with the compact Renegade, I'm going to buy it. The second they say that Ford is going to come out with the compact Bronco, I'm going to buy it. Like, and especially if you can get it at $15,000, you guys, I'm willing to save for that. Car notes, if you are going to be the person who pays a car note, is not going to last 7+ years to own this thing. It doesn't have to be in order to have this car. You have to sacrifice your future to owning a home. Like, this solves a major problem with affordability. And again, the reason why I'm saying I don't have a dilemma, the reason why I don't think this is disrespectful like the tiny home, is because we used to do this in America. It was a great way to solving a problem in America. It helped the American people who were able to buy compact cars. And no thanks to the government, both state and federal, that opportunity has become less and less available to us. Now, fortunately, I live in the state of Texas, so there isn't that many regulations that say you cannot have a compact vehicle, because they believe in the individual's right to transportation however they see fit, which I applaud and love very, very, very much. But when you see these things available to you, you feel galvanized. And I do think that by having that, it works in our best interest. It's been something that happened in the 70s. We used to do this. We used to create compact vehicles. It used to do the job. You can get from point A to point B. It didn't stop Americans from being able to go upgrade to the bigger car, to go and upgrade to the bigger thing that they wanted. What it meant was, until you can afford the bigger option, here is a smaller option that is just as nice, that is just as efficient, and you can do what you need to do and have control over your life. Now, as much as I love this idea, it's a question as to whether or not the president is actually going to do this. Okay. Now, you guys can go do the research yourself. You can look into the numbers of all of this. Okay. What were the rates back in the 70s, adjust for inflation, of course. What was the majority? If it was the majority, were these a big thing back in the day? Could they be useful to today? What are the fatality rates with these compact vehicles? I mean, back in the 70s, people were driving cars without seatbelts. I think, it's a risk. It's a risk. Like, people, come on. Millennials, Gen Xers, like, we grew up playing in the street tag football without helmets. Okay. Like, we can handle it. We not afraid. We can take the risk. My goodness. Okay. But now, as whether or not the president is actually going to let this happen, the data would suggest that there's enough Americans who are interested in doing this. Affordability issue would be addressed seriously if he does decide to go with this. So that does say to me that he's interested in doing it. But then his own comments are why I feel like it's a 50-50 shot. And the reason why I'm saying that about Trump here, you guys, is because when this man is serious about doing something, he puts action behind it, either via executive orders or there's manpower behind it. Okay. This man, has a task force for AI to take any preemptive attacks on states who decide to pass any kind of regulations against AI. You got a whole task force just ready to be deployed to any state. You're ready to pull federal funding from any state who decides to protect their people from an invasive and intrusive technology that the majority of the American people say they don't trust, not only because we don't trust the builders, but because we've seen enough sci-fi movies to know that you can't always trust the technology in and of itself. And he's going and gotten a task force together to prevent states from protecting their citizens from this intrusive technology. Dude, if you're willing to put a task force behind the tech of AI because you're so eager to beat China, where is a task force on the compact car issues? You guys, it's not just so much that the regulation is preventing the manufacturing here, okay? It's also the fact that if compact cars were to be built, okay, you're more likely to have fatalities in accidents than you would if you were in a bigger car. That means it's going to affect the insurance car premiums. That's what it means. Okay. It's going to affect the cost of your car insurance. And I'm not fitting to be, punished because I went and did something that was more affordable for me. So that has to be addressed. What about law enforcement? Are they going to do something about the speed limits on the roads that are 35 miles per hour? Because I'll be okay if you say that a compact car can't get on the highway. I don't need to go on the highway. Okay. I don't need to do that. I'm 45 minutes away from my job, public transportation wise, which is what I do. But take public transportation. Driving wise through the highway, it's 12 minutes. If I were to take the back roads of 35 miles per hour, I'd be 22 to 25 minutes away. So what I'm hearing is a compact car gets me to work in faster time than public transportation would. I'm with it. So those who are going to violate the law and go past the speed limit, maybe you need to increase the penalties on that so we can actually reduce the likeliness, okay, reduce the probability that I end up in a fatal accident. I don't feel like I should be held responsible or held liable for an accident that I didn't cause when I was following the speed limit and some jackass behind me decided to speed up to 60 miles per hour on a 35 mile per hour road. Where is a task force that's going to address what the law should look like as it relates to law enforcement, what the law should look like as it relates to the insurance? Because some of these states, the insurance commissioners are not elected. They are appointed by their governors. Pennsylvania, the state I moved from, yeah, the insurance commissioner is appointed, not elected. So what does that mean for the people who are going to have to suffer the consequences? Somebody decides to make an affordable decision for themselves. They choose to be fiscally responsible and they suffer the consequences because of the insurance companies. I think it's a scam. I think he needs to be able to address that. I know that when you're serious about something, Mr. President, you make some major declaration like you did with Liberation Day. Okay. And the equivalent, one could argue, was when he had this conversation with the auto industry executives. He did have that on December 3rd. And while having this conversation, he did ask them, why aren't you guys building these tiny cars? Like, why aren't you building it? I saw it over in Japan. It reminds me of the Volkswagen. Why aren't you guys building these things? And they simply flat out said, well, we're not allowed to build them. He turns to the Department of Treasury and says, yeah, do something about the EG emissions, reduce those regulations so that way they can start building. Duffy, who is the guy, the Department of Treasury head, he's the guy that said, well, not said anything. He really just kind of looked shocked and went with it. And Trump truths it, says he's going to make this a thing, that he just said it wasn't okay. He told his guy to get it done, that he gave an order to this guy. But just because you gave an order doesn't mean that this is actually going to happen. With my research, this is something that's going to have to happen over the next couple of years. You're going to have to take some serious action, Mr. President. Where's the damn task force on this? You got a task force for a tech that people are suspicious about, that the American people are suspicious about and don't trust. But there's no task force for this. If I really believe that you're going to take serious action on getting compact cars to be built and made available to the consumer, then where is the task force? Because there's regulations all throughout the states that are preventing them from even being used. And automakers are not going to be so quick to build this product if they know they can't be sold. And even if they do deregulate and say you can build them, insurance premiums are going to skyrocket to the point where that's not going to incentivize Americans to buy them. What's the point of buying a car where my car note is going to be like $250, but my insurance is $800? The goal was to buy something where I'm able to save an additional $500. But if I'm not able to do that with this, well, then I might as well go and buy the boat and just be in debt even longer. But at least my insurance isn't higher. At least I'm not spending more than I was supposed to. Like if I end up spending the same or more than when I get the compact car, what the hell was the point? The point is to address affordability, but if I can't really do that because insurance companies won't let me do it, well, then how are you really helping? Is it helping at all? And a task force could get together and address those issues. Go state by state by state. at least with the states that, are deliberately trying to prevent these things from being built and made available, and have those conversations. Talk to these insurance commissioners, talk to the ones that are elected, talk to the ones that are obviously appointed, talk to the governors, because if they've been appointed by, then they have to follow the lead of their governors. All this needs to be discussed. And a task force would have the manpower and the budget to figure out which states need to be addressed, have those conversations with those governors about what the law should look like with local law enforcement to determine what those penalties should look like. Okay. And business and individuals will fall into place. It is a choice, Mr. President. And I'm not entirely convinced that he is serious about this because, again, when he's serious, there's a manpower behind it, and there's no manpower here. The numbers came back, you guys, his polling for young people, and this is across the game, okay? We're talking CNN, suspicious. Harvard, suspicious. But even conservative outlets are saying he's losing the momentum among the young voters. Part of the reason why millennials and Gen Zers voted for this guy was because he addressed that under Biden, things were a hell of a lot worse. But you did not sit in front of Dave Ramsey, the financial guru, the OG financial guru, and say you thought affordability was a hoax. You didn't say that to him. How about a task force to have the starter homes built? Having the task force to make sure that these cars can be manufactured, the compact car and starter homes can be manufactured. We see a plan of action with a task force, a plan, a blueprint backed with real manpower, okay, and legislative ideas behind this concept of compact cars and starter homes. This is not only something that can get Republicans to maintain their power and increase their majority come the midterms, but this is actually going to benefit Americans for a long period of time. It's already going to take, the data suggests this could take anywhere between 2 to 5 years, which means you would have a chance. I think this could take longer than that, but ultimately, if they can start building these cars and you can go state by state by state fixing those regulations, fixing the insurance problems, you might actually be able to do something about this within the term that you have left, within the time of your term that you have left. So I just need to see more here because I think it's a great idea, Mr. President. I think this is great. I feel like it's a 50-50 shot with you, though. Okay, when they say Trump is unpredictable, they're not kidding. Okay, they're not kidding because it's taken a lot to not see a half glass full here when I see you giving billions of dollars to big tech. I see you wanting to create task force to protect big tech from state legislation that would protect its citizens, their citizens. And I don't see the same kind of effort here. The meeting on December 3rd with the automaker executives was not a grand declaration like what we saw with Liberation Day. And is it because you believe affordability is a hoax? Yes, gas prices are lower. But do you have any idea how amazing it would be if with your gas price reduction, I had a compact car as well? I'm saving a lot more money. I'm spending less because my tank is smaller because the compact car is available and the gas prices have been reduced thanks to the Trump administration. Now, do you have any idea how amazing that would be? Like, you want young people to go out here and be like, oh my goodness, the economy is so great. Everything is doing well. But every time we talk about affordability, it's why can't I afford to buy the house? It always comes back to the housing. Okay? Gas, groceries, necessities. So is the house. So is the car. This idea addresses affordability in a way that Biden didn't, that Trump obviously didn't back in his first term, which to no fault of his own, that no president in the 21st century has ever thought about. It's not like it's a brand new idea. We did this back in the 70s, okay? When there was a problem with the gas prices, they wanted more compact cars. So compact cars were being built. Americans were able to buy it. They had smaller tanks so they could adjust for the inflation of the gas because they were able to buy smaller cars. You see, this is nothing new under the sun. It's not brand new. We used to do this, okay? We used to do this. Like, how about we learn, we use our history, like, in the point of history is so we can learn from it. I just feel like this is not a new thing. And because it's not a new thing, it's definitely a great idea. So, Mr. President, I really want you to take this seriously. And maybe you are, and I'm just, worried. And that's possible because you are unpredictable. You are unpredictable. You guys know he is. And, they weren't kidding when they said that he was. My goodness, right? The only reason why he didn't die from getting shot in the face was because he's so unpredictable. So listen, that's fantastic. In some cases, him being unpredictable works in our best interest. It also got me worried sometimes. And in this case, it does got me worried because is this just a ploy to get me to vote for Republicans? because I'm not interested in preserving republicanism or preserving Republican power for the next decade. I'm interested in actually trying to address affordability so we can have the lives that we want. I want to own a home. I want to be able to have a family and a home. And the sad tragedy is the way that our monetary system works. Everything that is holy and beautiful and glorious is attached to a dollar value. Young people don't want to get married and have children because they can't afford to own the home, that they can't afford to live the lives they want to live because they're so riddled with debt. And I think that was intentional. Obviously, you guys know me. I'm very suspicious of the institutions. I think it was definitely intentional. At the same time, there are things that we can be doing as individuals, and there are things that this administration can be doing to address the issue so we can speed the process of getting young people married and living the lives that they want to live sooner rather than later. Compact cars and starter homes, that's the way to do it. A ballsy plan of action of compact cars and 2-bedroom houses. That's the way to get the votes, Mr. President. And if you're serious about this, I just need to see the task force, because again, it's not just about having the auto industry build the cars and deregulating where they have the ability to build, but all of the adjourning issues that play a role, like the insurance. Maybe it's going to be a tax credit. Maybe you can write off your insurance premium. So even if it does increase, you still get to gain if you buy. So all these things that have to be discussed, all these things that need to be addressed, and a task force is obviously going to be the manpower that would be the ones to go state by state by state to address these issues. If my insurance goes up because I bought a car that I could actually afford, I feel like I'm being punished, and I don't think that's fair. And Mr. President, I don't think you would think that's fair. But is that something that you plan on addressing? And I would like to have the answers to these questions before we get into midterms, okay? I really would. Because again, without seeing a real plan of action here, I need to hear more than just the concept. I actually need the blueprint, and I need to know if you're going to put the manpower behind it. That's what I need. I need to know all of this before I get into the voting booth, okay? When we say we want an informed electorate, it's about knowing about what the administration and this side of the aisle plans to do to address these real problems, okay? You have a task force behind an entire industry because you're so focused on beating another country. I'm not going to get into whether that's a good thing, bad thing, if you should do it, not do it. That's another day. But as of today, I feel like I need a task force because I'm feeling like it's a 50-50 chance, and I'm leaning towards glass half empty here. This is a great idea, Mr. President. Can I see some real blueprints? Can I get a plan of action as to how this is going to go? Because I can't get in front of this camera and say to my viewers, to my subscribers, yeah, no, this is great, and I think Trump is going to do it. I really don't know. He's unpredictable. Y'all know he's unpredictable. I really don't know. I really don't know. But ultimately, I think this is something that definitely needs to be discussed. I think it's a good thing. I think it's exciting. I think if he's really serious about this, that this is going to solve a serious pain point in the affordability issue. So you guys get in the comment sections. Let me know what you think. Do you like the idea of compact cars? Do you know people who've had compact cars? Have you actually seen a compact car in America that wasn't a Beetle? Because, I really want to know. What do you think about the compact cars? Have you seen them? Would you buy one? That's, I guess in that regard. And also, do you think President Trump is likely to, get a task force behind this to really make this happen, to really address the issue here? Because it's a 50-50 shot, and I'm not entirely sure. And so I'm legitimately asking, do you think he's going to do this? Really answer, please. I really want you to tell me he's going to do this, guys, please. Please tell me he's going to do this, because I fully support it if he does. Thank you guys again for watching. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Hit that notification bell so that way you guys never miss an episode. Of course, I'm going to take myself on to work. God bless. And of course, Kepler.